I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championship. Something stupid is coming out of his mouth. I don't know. Maybe it's just my age. He needs his vote pulled immediately. And of course, yes, a season like this has to have a name. Let's talk about something good about Justin Freck. What are you doing? The season of dreams. Ohio State, my guys, are either the best or the second best program in the history of college football. This guy is a bonehead. They love him. I question your judgment as an adult. I really do. I was a total hater. I know that for a fact, and I just don't get it. Get us back our sleeves and say, bring me that. That's the one I want. And welcome to Juck on Bucks College Football Show on a Monday. And Monday during the football season means we got my man Chris Drew from Menace to Sports on the show with me. Chris, good morning, brother.
Good morning. Good morning.
I got bad news, buddy. I got bad news. My streak, my 8-week winning streak is over. I had a horrible week, and it wasn't just, it was a crash and burn week. 4-8. You were 7-5. Congratulations on your big winning week. You kicked my butt this week, man. And I'm just, it had to end sometime. 8 weeks is the longest heater I've ever been on. So,
Juck, that's crazy because we were picking a lot of the same ones.
Yeah, we had more. It felt like that to me too. But then when I went back over it, we had some more.
Because I asked to go first for one because it felt like I was just copying every one of your picks.
You didn't want to look like you were copying.
Yes, I was like, "Can I go first this time, please?" And it's funny because the Florida pick, which I'm sure definitely helped me and hurt you. I only picked Florida because as we're going through it, Zach was like, "Do the right thing." He went to Florida.
Right.
So Zach said, whisper, do the right thing. And that's why I picked Florida.
Oh, man. That was an interesting game, too.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that. We got a couple of games to get to, but I want to get into some Buckeyes first. The Northwestern game and then moving forward. So we both picked Northwestern plus 28.5. The Buckeyes win 31-7. And we won our bet. But I was thinking with 9 minutes left, the Buckeyes up 31-7. And Will Howard trotting back out there that maybe Ryan Day also took the Buckeyes minus 28.5. Julian saying just 11 passes on the season. We're 10 games in. He's the huge favorite to be the guy next year. It's not a sure thing, but it seems like he's the favorite at this point. Ryan's really warmed up to him. You got Texas to open the year, and I'm just a little confused as to why we're not seeing him in garbage time.
Just absolutely refusing to give him any kind of reps. It's at this point, it's very on brand for Ohio State. Again, just a complete refusal to give him any chances. Last time we saw Julian saying he went 0 for 4 and what felt like they made him throw to the 3s, 4s, and 5s. They didn't even give him a Mylan Graham out there to go throw to. Went 0 for 4. And it just feels like either Ryan Day doesn't want people or anybody to know that who's going to be the favorite next year, but we all know who the favorite's going to be next year. It's kind of head scratching, actually, to be honest, completely head scratching. Unless Ryan thinks that it's going to be Devin next year. I'm trying to rationalize why not give the kid any reps,
I don't get it. Just up 31-7. I don't think it benefits seeing Devin Brown out there. I don't think it benefits Devin.
Right.
Throwing to David Adolph, you know what I mean? Running with the 3s and the 4s. But Devin Brown,
it just makes you wonder, did the beat overinflate how much Ryan and them like Julian saying, you think?
So that's an interesting question, right? Because they sure made it sound like Ryan Day was just totally enamored, different type of prospect. Could be, but it is interesting. You start off rough next year, and you're going to want somebody with a couple of game reps.
They tried to float to us that he was battling for the one job. The beat did.
They did.
Yeah.
You know what else I was thinking? Will Howard, we have not seen. I thought, and I think we both did coming into the year, that there would be a game or two that everybody would be clamoring for Julian saying because Will Howard went out and threw a couple of picks. How long until it happens? He's not had one single game like that. He's not had one bad game where we've had to worry about people coming out and saying, we want to see Sayin, which is pretty damn impressive.
No, that is really impressive. I think there was one tweet from Troy Smith that went out in the beginning of the Penn State game.
I don't know what he was talking about either, dude.
And that was all we saw.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. All right. So I was talking to our boy DG, and he spun my little question, my Marvin JJ question.
Mm-hmm.
And he put this out. He said, who would you rather have in 2026? You just get to pick one for 1 year, and it is Will Howard coming back as a 6th-year senior, or Julian Sayin in his, well, it would be 2nd year.
Dude, I think I'm warming up to Will on that. And maybe it's because I literally have not seen any Julian at all. And I don't know how you feel about Will, but I'm enjoying watching Will right now. And also, while I'm watching him, I feel like he's got more potential than he's putting on the field. Like, I feel like he's leaving 14 more points out there. And I think an extra year in Ryan Day's offense, maybe we see more of the legs. But for me, it's hard to answer that question because we're not seeing any Julian.
I'm telling you, man, 66% of the people chose Julian Sayin. And I don't think that people are realizing how good Will is becoming.
Also, be careful what you wish for. Like, Jackson Arnold, Dylan
right.
Gabriel, right?
Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson. I mean, like, look, Jackson Arnold was the Elite 11 MVP and was a 5-star quarterback, was viewed. So a lot of people thought he was better than Arch. A lot of people thought he was better than Nico. And Oklahoma said, you know what? We're going to let Dylan Gabriel walk because we want to see year 2 Jackson Arnold. And look what we got. So especially, we have not seen any of Julian Sayin for me to feel comfortable. I mean, if you're doing that, then that just means you will go buy the mystery box instead of buying the shirt you really like.
It's a great point. Great way to put it. But I was surprised. 66% of the people said Julian Sayin. And I'm thinking, man, the performance that he just showed us just this last game, right? This Northwestern game, you had some balls. The seam route to G, the touchdown to Carnell that he laid out for, the long ball to JJ that he didn't catch. That was a beautiful ball.
Great throw.
The short ball, the one that JJ took 68 yards, that ball was fit in a little window. Carnell on the goal line with the dudes draped all over him. There's like 5 throws that I don't think we've seen him really take a whole lot of shots at throws like that in those tight windows.
No, he's putting it together for real. And honestly, like really putting together on the deep balls, especially, they're also getting out earlier than they used to. And I think that's really important. Because I think obviously like, there's a speed differential in dealing with Kansas State receivers versus Ohio State receivers. I think part of the reason why balls were being underthrown was because I think he was waiting a tick too long to release it. And I think honestly, the thing that might have benefited him was the O-line being so nicked up where you can't afford to hold the ball a tick longer. So he's getting that ball out a little quicker, and that's benefiting him, I think, on the deep ball. That's just a hypothesis. Additionally, I think I would understand some people voting for Julian Sayin if we had seen him complete 1 deep ball all year.
Right. That's a good point.
That's everybody's big complaint about Will, right? Like the only I mean, shit, I've been the biggest Will complainer. And what's my big complaint been all year?
That's it, man. The long shot. You want to see him take a few more.
Right. So I would be like, it would be hypocritical of me for me to be like, oh yeah, like give me year 2 Julian Sayin when I have not seen him complete 1 deep ball all year. And I've only seen him attempt to 1 when he checked to a slot fade on 4th and 2.
Yeah. Yeah. When we talk about this guy, man, I'm telling you right now, I don't think when we look at the high profile programs around the country, and I'm trying to think here yesterday as I was putting together the show, who would I take over this guy? I think I've got a list of 5 that I know for sure. Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Dylan Gabriel, Milroe, and I think I'd take Drew Aller over him. And I know that one's probably debatable. But outside of those 5 guys, I don't think there's anybody else that I would say, okay, I'll make the swap. There's some question mark guys, some of the younger guys that, maybe in this offense they do that. But I mean, we're talking, we got a top 5 quarterback at Ohio State. And I just don't think.
Did you say Cam Ward or no?
I did not. So this is one I've wrestled with, and I went back and forth with a couple of people about this last week. I just don't think that Cam Ward, I love the upside, but the floor is a whole lot lower, and I'd rather the safer thing with this particular team.
No, that's fair. Whoever said Carson Beck in the chat, you're fried. Just go ahead and
somebody said Beck. Come on.
Chat. Yeah,
after one game back, come on. Yeah, hell of a game, but
like literally the way that I've seen Ohio State fans get upset with Will Howard and the way that I've been frustrated with Will Howard, everybody would be pulling their hair out. He's got 12 picks all in the last 8 games for Carson Beck. Like that's disgusting. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Bama, Texas, and Florida. 3 picks in each one of those games. Will wouldn't have survived that, bro. Will would not have survived.
No, he wouldn't have been. They would have sent his transcripts back to Kansas State and just told him just go ahead and finish out there.
By the way, I was checking Avery Johnson's stats. You know, they kind of pushed Will out for Avery. Avery Johnson's stats do not look even close to Will Howard's last year at Kansas State, and they just lost. So now they're 7-3. They kind of abandoned what could have been a really good season. You know, I get what they were trying to do. You know, they had the young guy. I think some people were saying they were worried he might transfer. I doubt he would have. Kid from Kansas, but you know, working out great for Will.
A lot of people felt like he was pushing Will Howard, and Will Howard wasn't responding the greatest. And obviously there was those moments where there was like kind of the soft benching for Avery, and Avery played well in the bowl game. I do think it's hard to be the quarterback at Kansas State for an extended period. I just think it's so difficult to string together like good game after good game, given, I mean, no skill player ever said, you know what, let me just go ahead and go to Kansas State. We talked about that before while we were, talking about Will Howard. So a
couple of thoughts on this Northwestern game, though I don't want to get too much into it because ultimately I don't think it means a whole ton. I mean, we're over. Like that part of the season is over. Basically everything that we've seen from preseason to spring to everything up to this point, it's like now is when it starts. It's the put up or shut up time right now. But a few thoughts. The defensive aggression, it was probably the highest it's been all year. We saw 6 sacks, tons of blitzes. I think it was something like a 50% blitz rate I heard on PFF, which I don't know how they track that, but it didn't seem like 50%, but
it didn't a lot. Look like it, but
they were sending a lot of pressure, and it was a hell of a lot of fun to watch. They did get burned some. Sonny, maybe the best game we've seen him play. Jack played a really good game. Arvell was all over the field. I'm going to give Sonny the defensive Juckeye of the week. Any thoughts jump out to you from the game?
Nothing too crazy. I mean, it was Northwestern. I was a little bit frustrated early in the game with it felt like Northwestern was able to get some things going, and I think they had like 150 early in the second quarter, which was way above their average. But then Ohio State kind of like hunkered down and really got after it. I like seeing Malik Harford out there. I know that we didn't really see him till late, but him and that number 9 looks like he's flying around a good amount. The D line is on a little bit more. CJ Hicks, we saw him off the edge. Hey, how about that? Not too shabby, not too bad. But honestly, Juck, like I don't really love looking into games like this because just go get it done. Like it's Northwestern. Go get it done. And they got it done and they remained healthy. And here we go. My major takeaway from the game: 0 slips. Not one.
They did a good job with Wrigley Field. Yeah, credit to them. There was no craters in the field like last year. They did a real nice job. No slips. It went off better than a game at Ohio Stadium as far as that goes. So fantastic job. I'd say the most irritation I got in the comments in the post-game show was the secondary. People concerned about the secondary. Denzel didn't look great. Jermaine didn't look great. More than just this game, I think there was a lot of this game where Northwestern really executed very, very well. They just had some really good plays. And some good catches, some good balls. We got to see Denzel win more. When we look at Oregon, Purdue, Northwestern now, I would say corner I'm most concerned about on this team.
Yeah, me too. But I also have like my bad quarterback theory that has been working in my head for like multiple years. Now there were some contested catches that got caught. Like obviously that one between I think Caleb Downs and was that Jermaine Matthews on the sideline?
Yeah,
that was a great ball, like great catch.
Yeah,
people are gonna be like, oh look, like Jermaine Matthews is food. But my bad quarterback theory is that like most good quarterbacks won't throw that football.
It's a good point.
It's like the weird thing. Like I've seen it in college football for years and years and years. You see these good corners like getting moss on like these balls that really I don't think they expect to be thrown that way because they got guys covered so much. And then you see guys become lockdown when they face better quarterbacks. And the person that made me kind of start toying with this theory in my head and kind of start building it was Damon Arnett. Damon Arnett was never getting burnt, but against bad teams, it felt like they were like people, he was just getting mossed. But then when they played good teams, like when they played Clemson's, he didn't get targeted because guys weren't open against him. So when they faced the better quarterbacks, how many of those balls are actually going to get thrown?
I see what you're saying. It's like playing poker against someone that doesn't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
So obnoxious. Like, it just drives you crazy. Like, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. And that is my bad quarterback theory. Now, the issue with Denzel Burke is that they played a good quarterback and he was just getting beaten wide open.
Yeah.
But like, people aren't really going to target Davison Igbinosun. Like, Davison Igbinosun in the big games doesn't get the PI penalties because he's covering guys and no one's throwing that way.
Let's hope it stays that way. The Joe Moore semifinalist top 10 O-line, which I expected to be a top 10 O-line this year. I don't think that's a crazy high demand to have a top 10 line at Ohio State. The right side wasn't so hot. The left side looked good. Tegra, maybe not such a great game. Haven't watched the all-22 or the end zone view yet, so we'll see when we get that. But all in all, this line, which has been a big topic of conversation, obviously, you lose your left tackle. I think they've done a tremendous job. Will, with his mobility in the pocket, covers up some mistakes. The running backs, with their ability to make somebody miss, covers up some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
In the biggest games, you had 141 yards rushing against Oregon. You had 170 against Penn State, 4 sacks between those 2 games. When you needed them most, they stood up. I'm feeling confident about this line moving into crunch time of this season.
I am too. I feel really good. I feel good about the line. In large part because they're getting time to gel, and I think that was kind of the biggest thing. Like, I think like the bodies they put out there should be able to get it done given the time to get ready. So no, I'm very high on the line. Even moving forward, I'm very high on the line. And again, I'll wait till like Zach drops his all-22 film so I can give it a look.
Right.
But I don't know how you, but I feel like they played pretty well. I feel like they've been playing pretty well. Even on the only like 2 blunders I think I've seen from this team since Simmons went down, and they had a week, was probably like the one-on-one pass rush specialist versus Donovan Jackson. That was the only issue.
Right. Yeah. A couple of tough ones against Penn State, but other than that, has he looked? Yeah,
all out of place.
He's looked damn good.
Yeah.
The Northwestern game, you had a couple mental errors. I saw a few mental errors where a couple guys got through, but all in all, man, physically, they were just doing really good. And it gives me a lot of confidence moving forward. I know Northwestern's not great, but just another game under the belt before you head into this big one. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling about Indiana?
I hate that they had 2 weeks to get ready. Shanahan always, if there's a Shanahan involved in the offensive play calling, that always concerns me. But this feels like, Juck, I have a belief that like when a lesser team overachieves and they work themselves into like a big matchup, there's so much blowout potential because like Ohio State's not going to be sleepwalking into this one. Like Indiana's going to get Ohio State's very best punch. And I think that almost works in Ohio State's favor in a major way. Yeah.
I'm not quite as confident as I was last week.
Okay.
Where I thought the Buckeyes were going to win by 17. And that might just be my nerves. Maybe last week was me thinking logically about it and how I really feel, because just watching them against Michigan again, I watched it again, the second half of that game. I just don't think that they got the firepower to sustain a full game against Ohio State. And I think that in the end, the Bucks are going to pull away on this. But, speaking of Indiana, KD, last week, I think it was, or maybe 2 weeks ago, we said we're going to find out just how much Indiana wants to be good at football.
Yeah.
They want to be good at football, bro. Wow.
I was going to use this as why I think Ohio State could blow them out. Because if Cignetti felt like they could win that game, why wouldn't you wait a week to get that deal done?
I don't know. I think he did a pretty good job.
He did. But we saw this with Mel Tucker.
We did. Yeah, we did. So for anybody who hadn't heard, Curt Cignetti signed a deal with Indiana. What was it? 8 years for $8 million a year?
Yep. So it goes through 2032. It's a $64 million deal with an 8 average, and then there's enough bonuses for it to get to 9.3 every single season up through 2032. There's no buyout numbers that got released with it. I'm curious on that. And for him, I mean, the leverage he had would have been the Florida job, and that kind of went away. And the leverage he had could have maybe been the Baylor job, but I don't think he would have taken that job because that Florida job was supposed to open up the whole like domino effect because it could have resulted like Lane Kiffin going there and then Ole Miss is open. So the leverage that I think he thought he was going to have kind of went away. So taking that through 2032, $8 million a year, major ups for a guy who is 63 years old.
Yeah, 63. But some people were talking about his age. Like I honestly think that the shelf life as a major college football coach normally I wouldn't call Indiana in this particular range what I'm talking about, but like a big time college football coach, 7 years, man. Even if you're doing good, like 7 years shelf life, it's just so much. The fan base eventually gets sick of you. You get sick of everybody there. So that puts him at 70, which is like the new 60. 10 years ago, a 60-year-old is like a 70-year-old now to me.
Yeah,
that could just be my age, though, bro. I don't know.
For him, he's such a unique 63-year-old because he's like the classic car with new tires because he hasn't been at major college football for long enough to like have any tread on the tires. Where guys like Nick Saban were up at major college football for so long, kind of, and those tires got burned through. Cignetti is the classic car with the new tires racing a whole bunch of new cars. And we're going to see if that good old American muscle can get it done, man.
I think I could do a full episode just called Chris's Analogies and just
I am the analogy guy, man.
I think that the dude is I don't know how repeatable it is. Like, I guess if I'm an Indiana fan, I'm feeling really happy right now. But when we look at this, he had a bit of an advantage. Now, obviously he had an advantage with the JMU guys knowing who to bring in. But somebody pointed this out to me in the chat last week, and props to them. I'm sorry, I forget who it was. He also had a huge advantage knowing everybody in the conference that was good, right? All the really good players in that conference that he knew to target. So that was a bit of an advantage. How much money are they going to give him in NIL? We've seen the recruiting uptick. They're paying him like Ryan Day. Like, you know what I mean? Ryan Day makes $10 million a year. You're saying he can get up to 9.3 with bonuses.
Yeah.
They're expecting him to deliver. Like, they want him to be a steady competitor in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think they probably want him to be what, like 9-3 every year?
That seems like 8-4 should be the absolute floor if you're making $10 million bucks, close to $10 million a year.
And now Julian Lewis is on the market, and we know Julian Lewis keeps taking
visits
to Indiana.
Julian decommits. So between, I guess, Indiana and Colorado will probably be the favorite, but Indiana's got to be in there, right? Now that he's decommitted.
Yeah, Colorado's going to be the favorite until Prime goes to the NFL. Like, there's like all that talk about like Prime going with Shador to the NFL, and there's like I know Jerry Jones, I guess, interested in Prime. I don't think Prime is in college like next year. Is my hot take.
You think this is his last year?
Yeah, I think he's out, dog.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't think they've done enough to rebuild.
Wow. I honestly, the success that they're having now,
Colorado.
You know what though? Okay, last year Colorado.
Yeah,
I could see him. I guess that now that it's gone good.
My speaker went out, Juck. I cannot hear you. But let me turn it on.
Can't hear me. Okay. Kris is going to go check his speaker. I'm going to pull up the chat. How's everybody doing today? Dave says, if Drew Aller had anything at wide receiver, he'd be putting up really good numbers. He has a bunch of stiffs at wide receiver. I couldn't agree more. And that's why Drew Aller is one of the 5 that I would say I would probably take him in this offense over Will Howard. Dan lets us know that Julian Lewis is visiting Indiana, and that's, he's been there a couple times now. So that's really good for them. I just have a hard time envisioning Julian Lewis committing to Indiana. It would just be amazing, but they've done a whole lot of amazing things. That would be pretty crazy. Abby says Aller over Howard is blasphemy. I get it. This could have a little something to do with my soft spot for Drew Aller. I really like him. Ohio kid, grew up right over there, watched him in high school, and kind of wanted him to end up at Ohio. Well, I really wanted him to end up at Ohio State for a long time. So that might, cloud my judgment a little bit when we talk about him. Dave says he thinks the scum D line will be a good test for the O line. They still have really good talent on that defensive line. They sure do. They absolutely do. Doreen thinks we're going to absolutely whoop the Hoosiers. Our girl Emily was at Wrigley Field. She got a really sweet scarf. She sent it to me.
I'm back.
Hey, Drew. What's up, brother?
My bad. I don't know what happened there. Speaker went out.
So we got some big recruiting news.
Yes.
What's up, B? Jordan Ricketts, 2026, Jaden Ricketts, 2026 wide receiver, commits over the weekend to the Buckeyes. The second commit in 2026. He joins Chris Henry Jr. in the class. So you got a 5-star, you got a 3-star. I did some film of him the other night, did a little breakdown, a little video. This kid is electric fast, and he's only a 3-star because they haven't really fully evaluated him. Just like BP Miller, when BP got the offer, they took a real look at him. He's now rated over Phillip Bell and Des Jones. And this kid will be another one like that. He is dynamite, man. The speed, sub 11 second 100 meter guy, just absolute blazer. I love it.
Yeah.
No, when I was looking, we have 12 Ohio prospects now offered in the class of 26, which is really high for this time of year.
Already 12 for 2026?
Yeah. So, we've talked about the pivoting strategy, understanding that it's foolish to just load up in one position group with as many highly rated guys as you can get. These guys are all being, if they're all being recruited by the big dogs, you get into their second year and they're not getting playing time. Those texts are coming. All the people, all the contacts they have at all the other big schools, they're coming. Not only is it expensive, it's a transfer risk.
I was gonna say, when you have Ohio guys, there's just less of a transfer risk.
Yeah, for sure. And you got guys that'll stay in the program, time to develop. But I really like this kid. He is a blazer, the type of speed. By the way, bro, now if you're looking at him, and then oh geez, the name's slipping me. With the kid in 27 out of Wayne. Oh, the burner. What is that kid's name? He's the number 1 wide receiver in 27 already. They just came out with those rankings.
I remember his name.
It always slips my mind because he's so
2027. Like
he's so quiet. He's so quiet, but he really likes Heartline. So speaking of Heartline, Jameer Brown. Thank you, Mika. Jameer Brown out of Wayne in 2027, the number 1 wide receiver in the country. So we could actually go 3 years in a row with a wide receiver from the state of Ohio with BP Miller, Jaden Ricketts, Jameer Brown, it's been a long time since I can remember something like that.
Which I love.
I do too. Absolutely. Yeah, Jameer Brown, buddy. So Dave says the Ohio talent has really picked up in the last couple of years, and this is something that Kris and I have talked about quite a bit over the last 6 months for sure. Definitely. The class of 2026 is really good. 27 is looking really good. But we did get some bad news over the weekend, potentially. I don't want to put the nail in the coffin totally, but we have got a Fong bomb. Steve Wilt Fong has put out a prediction that TJ Alford will, in fact, be flipping out of the Ohio State class and into the Miami class. And this one, TJ was my second guest ever here on Juck on Bucks. This one hurts, man. This one stings if that is, in fact, the case.
Yeah, there's always that threat with Florida kids. And I thought that there was less flip potential with him because of, his cousin is Kenyatta Jackson, that closeness. I thought, that there'd be a good shot that he did stay in the class. I know that he loves Laurinaitis. And I think he's talked about that a couple times. So I was kind of surprised about that.
I've talked about him extensively about his admiration for Laurinaitis is so strong that I thought, and I was so confident that he wasn't flipping out because of that. And I've been saying it forever. I feel like a dummy, but I just, relationships, I guess, can only get you so far this day in recruiting. I don't know what else to say. It sucks. KD, You got a question in a super chat, buddy.
Oh, yes, sir. Asking about the corner. I retired the corner during the season. I'll be back in the offseason. It became too much for me to keep up with that and the whole national landscape. And they're putting out a weekly show. But it'll be back right after the year ends and kind of recruiting kicks back up again in a big way.
And another one, Doreen. Thank you so much, Doreen. Hey, Juck, thank you for your dedication to your craft and joining Menace Army. You've been a solid friend. Juck, Juck, Juck. My cheer for you day one. It has been. Thank you so much, Doreen. I appreciate all your support and your friendship.
Big believer in Juck, always.
She always has been. She's great. Nick D says we have an incoming player from Richland County, Ontario High School. Yes, that is Bodpin Miller, BP Miller. He is a quarterback there. Going to be a wide receiver for the Bucks, and he is a dynamite athlete.
He made some crazy throws in Friday night's playoff game, man. Like, looked really dynamic. I'm just saying, I know he's a wide receiver, but
we talked about it before, right? Like, like this kid, I thought when the Buckeyes got on him that maybe some other people might start taking a look and being like, hold on now. He might be able to play quarterback at this level at a pretty good clip.
Yeah, he can spin it, man, like really spin it, and he's such a crazy athlete. He's ridiculous. Ohio's version of Torrance Gibson.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say he might even be a little faster than Torrance, but no, Torrance was pretty damn.
Yeah, like this. I mean, 6'4", American heritage, high school quarterback, came in as an athlete quarterback, and then immediately went to wide receiver. There's a lane for Miller here. He's really big time. Honestly, if he was an athlete like this down in Florida, he'd probably be like in the top 110 players in the country.
I totally agree. And when he was a 3-star, I'm like, hold on, man. You're telling me this kid's a 3-star? Like, you have a column, it's called athlete, right?
Yeah.
This dude fits the caliber of what you would call a 5-star athlete. Like, I've seen the dudes that they have in that category as 5 stars. You had him as a 3-star. It was ridiculous. The dude's unbelievable. On the flip side, KD, we also got a crystal ball in our favor as Turbo Rogers decommitted from Alabama. And this is one I did not think would happen with Isaiah West and Bo Jackson in the class already. This kid has loved Alabama from the time he was young. He did not commit to this staff. So he was already committed. They got a killing deer in the class, the number 1 running back. And he's decided he wants out. We know Coach Locke has been pursuing him hard. Crystal ball comes to the Bucks. I'm stunned. This is not something if it happens. When's the last time we've had a big time flip like this? I can't remember.
From Alabama, especially. I don't know.
That's the other thing.
I mean, it's hard for us to get flips in general. Like when I think about flips all time, like who have we flipped in the last 3 years?
I can't remember a single primetime guy. This dude qualifies. This is a primetime player, impact player.
Like primetime flips, I guess you could say. I guess you say we flipped Jordan Hancock from Clemson.
That's probably the last big time.
I mean, Julian Sane wasn't really a flip.
No.
No, we haven't really flipped anybody.
It doesn't seem like it's part of the Ohio State coaching staff culture. It really doesn't. Yeah. Coach Locke coming in from Oregon, this is very much their culture out there. And I love it. I love him getting in there. And if he gets this done, maybe this is something that they can start embracing, because I feel like at the end of every damn class, everybody loses some and maybe gets some in. We lose some, never get them back in.
Yeah, there seems to be this weird thing, if you try to get a flip kid, there's a belief that maybe that kid's susceptible to go to the portal, and maybe that's why Ohio State kind of leans away from those kids. And honestly, Ohio State has not been rated by the portal yet, like some of these other schools. But Turbo would be a huge get, and it would kind of signal something different too, because Turbo's not your traditional kind of back that Ohio State's landed the last 4 or 5 years. He's more of that scat back, more of that got some Curtis Samuel receiver in him, big home run speed, a little bit smaller than the guys they got in this class. But it would signal that, hey, look, we're willing to get the guys to ball out in space, because that's what kind of he is. Additionally, it's look, we're not just going to recruit running backs from our region. We will go down and go battle toe-to-toe and maybe waste time and resources battling in Alabama in hopes you land. So it kind of signals a little bit of a change, at least for me personally, when I saw this.
Oh yeah, this dude's an explosive play waiting to happen. We're talking legit home run speed.
Yeah.
A little bit smaller, like you say, but he's stout too. I broke his film down. You can check back. It was probably a week and a half ago at Juck on Bucks. If anybody wants to go look at that, this dude is, he's got all that scat back ability.
Yeah,
but he can also run between the tackles. He can be physical, and he enjoys
he
it.
Like a Chip Kelly guy. I mean, yeah, when you look at
those, for sure. I'm sure that was a big selling point.
Those like vintage Oregon running backs, like DeAnthony Thomas, like Michael James, like a lot of those guys, like that fits that. Guys that can run between the tackles, between the guards if you need them to, but guys who, as soon as like take a step out and go get into some space. Oh yeah, Devin Brown was a USC commit. That's right, but they lost their staff as well, and then that's what led him to decommit.
And let's just say, not just flipping this kid out of Bama, but he's actually from Alabama, which actually would make 3 Alabama natives in this class with Ziggy Grady and Naeem Offord, which, I don't know where you're sitting on Naeem. I'm at about a coin flip right now.
I don't know. I defer to you on that.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's stupid to even speculate at this point. We'll see when we get there. But all of this, this class is looking pretty damn good, man. It's looking pretty damn good. I don't think it'll end up getting the crown, but I love it. We got some really solid players, some good kids in it.
No, I'm excited about this class. I am. I'm excited. I'm excited about the diversity in this class in terms of like what region we're going to get guys from. I like that we got a bunch of Jersey boys in this class too, just for the record.
Oh, hell yeah.
Big Jersey guy.
Yeah. 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I love it. And we look at the ones on the team right now. They're the baddest dogs on the team, dude. You got IGB, Jalen McClain.
Yep.
Dude, Jalen McClain, for the caliber of recruit he was, this kid's playing like a 5-star, man.
Yeah, and he's playing earlier than a lot of people thought. A lot of people thought he would take like 2 to 3 years to even get ready to see the field. But he's a hard-hitting guy. It looks like he's past Bonsu, who I kind of like Bonsu a little bit coming in too.
Yes, it looks like he hit.
Another Jersey guy.
Yeah. All right, buddy. So we thought that, obviously, you go into this game. It's your 3rd top 5 matchup in 6 weeks, which is something I was just thinking this morning. I don't know that I can recall outside of postseason and end of the year, like maybe a Michigan and 2 postseason games in the regular season, playing 3 top 5 matchups, let alone in 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty wild. And then after Indiana, you got what's going to be one of the most maybe emotional versions of the game ever, coming off of last year, their national championship, the 3 in a row, what's going to be on the line for Ohio State. The pressure has got to be absolutely immense in that building this week, dude. I mean, can you even imagine?
Astronomical pressure. Got to be.
As loose as Ryan Day was after that Penn State game, boy, I bet it's puckered right back up.
Dude, airtight, dude, like a dolphin.
I was thinking about this team and what I thought about it at the beginning of the year. At this point in the season, I was kind of going through, how are they now compared to what I thought they would be? Like at this point, obviously I didn't think it would be this point that I would be looking at. I thought it would be next week, but it's here. It's Indiana. It's a week before I thought the postseason was really starting, but it feels like that to me right now. This is the postseason right now.
So this is the playoffs. Like put the weights in your pocket and go take care of each game. Like I don't care. I don't care if you win in style. I don't care how you win. Just go win. Like right now, you control your own destiny. There's so much chaos happening behind you. You are one of the leaders. Like just keep the train moving forward. Is where I'm at. Like this is the playoffs.
I was thinking about the team, things that surprised me in one way or another. The secondary, I thought would be one of the biggest strengths on the team. I think that surprised me that it's not quite that. I didn't think that Will Howard would be as good as he is. I did think JJ would have a huge impact. I didn't think it would be this big, or maybe I thought it would, but I doubted myself because we just have never seen that. Even though these running backs, obviously we knew how good they were. The way they're running, I mean, I feel so confident in them to keep the running game going. Ryan Day, Chip Kelly working out. I expected that. I didn't expect we'd ever have an issue with juice during the season. We did. After Penn State, that seems to have flipped. I think they've carried that mindset over. But as we head into crunch time, I still think that we're the team tied with Oregon in the best position to win a national championship the way we're constructed.
I agree. We feel we feel like a team that's kind of like a sleeping giant that's finally got the smelling salts, and we're like starting to stand up and kind of knock the rust off and getting going. I mean, obviously, my big complaint about this team was they felt like a team that already won a national title, and then want to sleepwalk through until they got to like that second chance to win it. I think they've been able to sleepwalk through some games and still be, undefeated with exception to that Oregon loss, obviously, and kind of be in a spot to kind of avenge the loss. B, avenge the last 2 games to Michigan. 3, stop an up-and-coming Indiana team from having any fun, and then kind of have a chance to be that number 1 seed going into the postseason. Like that being in front of them has to matter so much, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Let's talk about that Oregon team for a second. So Oregon goes up to Wisconsin. Hey, you called this, man.
Yeah,
you called it.
I don't get credit for calling it. Really, I just listened to Josh Pate talk about it, and the big thing was like the time zones. 3 times in 4 weeks across 2 different time zones.
Man, don't give that dude credit. You called
right.
it.
It was me. It's Black History. It's Black History Decade. It was I came up with that. I entirely came up with that plagiarism.
The worst part is, and this is just the new system. Oregon could have lost that game. They still had the tiebreaker over Penn State, Indiana, and Ohio State. So wouldn't have mattered at all, other than I guess maybe it would have made the Washington game a little more interesting. But the Ducks end up pulling it out at Camp Randall at night. It was a pretty interesting game. I felt like Wisconsin was they fired Phil Longo. They fired your boy after the game.
Fired Phil. I was wondering if that was going to be a fit, like an air raid guy with like a hard-nosed, tough football coach like Luke Fickell. Like the air raid stuff, usually you see work with like go coach for Lincoln Riley, right? Like go coach for those guys. Like Luke Fickell's like a true like I'm gonna run the ball. Like
Absolutely.
ground and pound, from that Tressel world-ish, like the evolved Tressel-ish ball. But Phil's not gonna have a tough time finding a job at all.
No, but I think we were both impressed that he hired Phil Longo, kind of spreading out, getting out of his comfort zone. And I thought that this day and age with the portal, you could make that work. You get the pieces you need at Wisconsin. When we look at Indiana, the pieces they got, blows my mind why Iowa and Wisconsin can't pull the same type of thing. I just don't get it. But the Badgers, 96 total passing yards for 3.4 yards of completion. They ran the ball for just 130 yards. It felt like more to me during the game. When you're trying to upset a team, you can't go 2 for 14 on 3rd and 4th down.
Cannot.
Wisconsin went 2 for 14 on 3rd and 4th down. Props to Oregon for that. And the Ducks end up pulling it out. Mateo Uiagalelei is a stud, dude.
Superstar.
When I heard somebody, the announcer said, you can't block him one-on-one. And I just got so pissed thinking about Jack and JT. Why can't I ever hear somebody say that about them?
It breaks my heart, man, because he looked like how I wanted JT to look.
That's exact. I saw the Polynesian hair come out of
dude,
back.
Saw it. And I was like, that's supposed to be JT.
Yeah. Ohio State #1 in the country in red zone touchdown percentage. The Ducks had an issue, and that's what kept them in the game. 5 trips into the red zone, they scored 13 points. They played similar to Michigan State. The Ohio State defense has a strength here. This might be something to look forward to in that championship game.
Yeah, I think so too, and I feel really good about like Ohio State's trajectory versus Oregon's heading into that game. Like, and I feel like Oregon kind of put it on film and kind of confirmed that there's definitely some chinks in this Oregon armor.
I agree, and now that we've seen that, Chris, now we can, I think, lump game 1 in the Boise game kind of into that. Okay, now we've seen 3 games, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it was like there, and then it kind of went away.
People we thought those were gone and meant nothing.
Right, and now like the leak is back.
Yeah. So now there's 3 games you can watch with them, not playing so hot. Who the hell was that first opponent? It slipped in my mind.
Their first opponent?
Yeah, it wasn't Wyoming. It was
Idaho.
Idaho. That's it. Yeah, the Vandals. The Vandals gave them a hell of a game, and Boise as well. Boise, Boise, you've got in your rankings, and we'll go over our rankings here soon. Kris and I each did our top 12. That chop block that was pretty consequential in the game. What did you think of that call?
I didn't see it. Like, where was it? Like, it's a phantom chop block. Like, what are we doing?
So the way I understand it, and I didn't know when I first saw it, I felt the same thing. I'm like, come on, it's got to be at the thigh or below. Like, that's literally what the rule says. He was clearly at his waist or above. But somebody told me that, like, the running back coach is definitely, like, they call that one on the side of safety because they've had so many bad injuries with that. So their coach, like, not to do that. If he's engaged, don't do that, or you're probably going to get it called. And I think that's why we saw the running back himself didn't really flip out. He kind of just like looked like, yeah, I get it. But no, people were livid about that one, thinking that the Ducks were getting some Big Ten home cooking there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess it makes sense with the running back engages. It just didn't feel like a chop to me.
No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't. The other controversial thing, 1:45 left in the game. Oregon's ball, up 16, 4th down. They line up for a 38-yard field goal. Instead of kicking that field goal, they go for a fake. Didn't get it. Field goal would have put them up by 6. You would have made Wisconsin drive the length of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I'm all for aggressiveness. I thought this was unnecessary aggressiveness. What did you think?
Dude, that's Dan's thing, though. Like, Dan will always live and die by that.
Don't you think he'd ought to learn his lesson after Washington last year in 2 games where he got burned by that philosophy?
I'm convinced that these coaches don't want to learn their lessons. They just want to prove everyone that they're right. It's
a great point.
They just want to be right instead of get it right. Like, Dan Lanning refuses to be less aggressive, and it's been a big strength for him this year. But it could come back to haunt them in the playoffs or against a team like when they go for it on 4th down from their own 35-yard line on like 4th and 2, and they don't get it against Ohio State. It's gonna be like, oh shoot. But that's Lanning being Lanning.
I mean, your defense has shut these guys 97 passing yards.
Yeah.
And if you kick the field goal there, you're making them drive the length of the field to score a touchdown with a minute left to beat you. Like, it's plus, let's not forget, Kris, they got Atticus Sappington kicking field goals, right?
Sappington.
They got Sappington, bro.
What a name, dude.
Oh, it's the best, dude. Atticus Sappington. I didn't hear it until we were playing them. The kicker comes out, they say Atticus Sappington, and me and my son looked at each other like busted out laughing. Are you kidding me?
It sounds like satire, like we're watching a Key and Peele skit.
Yeah. Atticus Sappington. Another Big Ten game of interest, probably the only other one aside from ours. USC 28, Nebraska 20. USC was minus 9.5. You won that sucker. Nebraska was the bet. Holgerson didn't make Rayola look like Mahomes just yet in 5 days, but you win. Lincoln moves to 5-5.
Yep.
He's got UCLA, then Notre Dame. Last year they were 7-5. He's going to need to beat Notre Dame to do that again. This dude is about to go 6-6 in year 3 at USC with a losing record in the Big Ten in year 1. When all those USC fans were talking all that snap all off season, bro.
I can't believe the fall off, dude. And like his buyout's too much for him to be on the hot seat, but it just confirms like he is an offensive coordinator cosplaying as a head coach. He can't be a head coach.
I love it. He's so cocky, dude. I watch every Lincoln press conference when he loses, just because it's so entertaining to see this dude get his comeuppance. It's never his fault.
He never wants to take accountability. Like,
it's never his fault, dude. Never. He's just that type of dude. And that's the type of guy. You meet him in daily life. He's that dude. Can't stand him. Matt Rule, bro. We're talking 5 games last year. They missed the stupid bowl game, which we've talked about before. I can't stand even calling this bowl eligibility. Like, they didn't get to 500 last year, 6 games. After week 6, they were 5-1. Remember, we were talking about them potentially coming into Ohio State undefeated. Indiana beats them really bad. It looked like a bowl game was guaranteed. These guys haven't gone to a bowl game since like 2016 or something. Since then, they've lost 4 straight. They've got Wisconsin and Iowa. Are they going to break the streak and go to a bowl game, or are these guys going to lose out on this again? Well, that would be amazing.
Well, they got Wisconsin next week, right?
Yeah.
Who would you take in that game? Like
Wisconsin.
Me too. And it's weird because I linked those two coaches together. So then it's like comes down to one chance for all the marbles.
Amazing to me. Like we were really thinking they could be undefeated coming into the shoe in game 7.
I thought so.
I did too.
I thought so for sure. I thought it was the way it was setting up. And like Dylan showed so much promise early, Juck, and then it just kind of like hit a super freshman wall. Ever since that Rutgers game, he's just been really bad.
So I've not kept up on him since they kind of fell off the map. He's not been good.
Rutgers exposed him, and he's been bad since then.
That's interesting. Hey, undefeated BYU, you were rooting against them, so you wanted him to get knocked off. Now, we talked about the week before. They played Utah. They got the phantom call. Everybody called it a phantom call. I sent you the video that showed a different angle of that call. What did you think when you saw the video?
Right call. 100% the right call.
All right. So for those who didn't see, this is an angle from a fan. I got this puppy. I'm going to pull it up. Now, this call decided the game. Utah wins this game.
Yeah.
If this call isn't made.
100% the right call. Shoulder. He goes to break. Clear tug. Throws him. And that's right in front of that ref. Right call.
So those refs got destroyed for that call. Even the AD. But
also the broadcasting crew didn't do a good job of, giving us a second look on the TV copy.
How terrible. Like, can we see the other side of the field? Like, what I mean? Yeah, it was bad. But that team, they lose, they go down. They still have the path clear in front of them to get to the Big 12 championship. I think it's a good team. I don't think it's a top 12 team in the country. Mm-hmm. Colorado, on the other hand, man, they're looking really good as they steamroll Utah. It was kind of a, they let them get back in and then just like last week, let somebody get back in and then just steamroll them. The defense looks legit. They step up when they need them to. Travis Hunter with another big game, and this is over, right? He's going to win the Heisman. Yeah.
Yeah, he's about to win the Heisman.
Pretty wild, man.
Crazy.
But the schedule left, I think Colorado has Kansas and then that crappy Oklahoma State team.
So I think Kansas is probably more dangerous, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kansas has now played spoiler 2 weeks in a row. Yeah. So Kansas definitely has a shot to beat them. But they're going to be the odds-on favorite now to win the Big 12 championship. And I actually think that they might be able to win a game in the playoffs too.
Well, they've got so much firepower on offense. They can at least sneak one. Like they got 3 NFL guys that can take over a team. Yeah, Colorado's 3-point favorites over Kansas next week.
That's a tight line, bro. Jeez. Yeah,
minus 150.
Okay, then.
That's gonna be it. That has a chance to be like a classic, like Big 12, like barn burner shootout.
It really does. Let's talk about the big game. The Dogs head down there, Tennessee heads down to play the Dogs. Tennessee get out to a 10-0 lead. I thought for a while there that they were going to win the game. I was like, this is okay. We see where this is going. And then Carson Beck snaps out of it, dude. And all of a sudden he's like last year's Carson Beck, 347, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Georgia let him throw it down the field, and they started with that early,
just bombs. So like I was like, what is this game plan?
Right. I think they had, maybe 6 explosive plays. It was a lot, dude, but they all of a sudden looked really, really good. And Tennessee's offense is just disgusting, dude. They're just disgusting. Nico with 167 yards. This kid averages 187 yards a game passing. This team reminds me of Penn State, that Tennessee team. Good up front, good defense, good running game.
Really good running game.
The passing game's just putrid and not good enough to win in the playoffs. I just don't think either of them have a passing game that can win in the playoffs.
And the quarterback's more famous than the production.
Great point. Great point. Let's talk about another famous quarterback. Texas, 20, Arkansas, 10. This is the same Arkansas team that Jackson Dart just bombed on for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. Quinn Ewers puts up 176 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Texas, I just am not seeing it. I'm not seeing it with this team. They haven't played anybody. Let's pull up their resume. Matter of fact, we'll pull up their resume, then we're going to pull up our rankings. So this is Texas' resume with their biggest wins against 6-6 Michigan. This is me projecting out. Michigan 6-6 at the end of the year. Maybe it will be that, maybe not. Vandy, I project 6-6. We'll say the odds. Well, those are the odds. If it's chalky, both of those teams will be 6-6. Their loss to Georgia, which wasn't just a loss, it was an exposing, embarrassing loss. So
they got beat
Chris
down,
and I,
sure.
yeah. Chris and I did our top 12 rankings. We'll go over Chris's first. Chris, walk us through this. Any of the controversial ones. We got everybody's resume. If you want me to pull up a resume.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Oregon 1, Ohio State 2 were two really easy ones for me. I opted to put Indiana 3 because they're beating the spread by the average of 19 points per game, which is absolutely outrageous. And they have a better resume than Michigan did at this point last year. And Michigan was ranked the number 1 team in the country. And then if you look at they haven't beaten the big dogs, but neither have Texas. Texas actually has the really, really bad loss on the schedule. I also opted to put Penn State ahead of Texas because I'm sitting back and thinking about, well, I think Ole Miss is probably better than Texas. So I know Penn State is. Penn State has big wins over Illinois and Washington, both better. Those would be Texas's 2 best wins. And then their loss is a close loss to Ohio State, when Texas's loss is a bad loss to Georgia, who I have ranked outside of my top 5. And then, after that, it kind of gets a little tricky to rank them. For me, the reason I ended up putting schools, well, here we go. So the SEC rankings for me a little bit after Texas got tricky because I didn't know where to place Notre Dame either. So Notre Dame and Texas are similar boats for me, but I didn't feel good putting a 2-loss SEC team over Notre Dame. So then it becomes down to, okay, head-to-heads and other rankings. So, yeah, 9-3 A&M, who A&M's in the driver's seat for the SEC, which is crazy. And then 6-4 Louisville. And then, of course, the loss to NIU is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And then I opted to go Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia. I know that Georgia probably has maybe the most upside of that group, but they got losses to Ole Miss. And Bama has huge wins. Georgia, LSU, and Mizzou all would be Texas' best wins. They just had the 2 losses, and the 6-6 loss to Vandy really stings. And honestly, that loss to Vandy is what's propping up the Texas resume on the other half. Ole Miss's domination over Georgia, I think, might be the best win in the country because it was 4-quarter domination to me, and there was no chance for a comeback. There was no pushback at all. Texas. I mean, Georgia beating Texas is a huge win as well. I just don't know who Texas has beat. Clemson, again, ACC, and then they did have a really impressive win over Tennessee at home. But again, the losses being to Bama and Ole Miss, it's okay, you lost to teams that are playoff teams, and so for that, I'll rank you below the other 2. So that's kind of my unpacking thoughts on that grouping, and I feel pretty comfortable and confident with that going into Week 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I went with Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana for the same reasons as you. Penn State at 4. I'm done pretending that that Texas deserves to be over Ole Miss, Alabama, and Georgia with their resumes. I've been saying all along I value big wins over more than I want to punish for a loss. And yes, they've got a couple losses, but the wins that they have, the way that they've won games, each one of them, at least 2 really solid wins, and Texas just hasn't. And they haven't been impressive to me in the average game. A game against Arkansas, I want you to be impressive. If you've got nobody on your resume to build your resume up, you've got to win that game impressively, and you just aren't. You're at home. You know what I mean? There's no excuse for it. Notre Dame, again, I like their resume. It's pretty good. It took a hit this week with Louisville losing. So Louisville was actually propping up a couple people's resumes. So Louisville loses. And again, that's Texas A&M just projecting out. That's going off they've only got 2 losses right now, but if the odds are they're probably going to lose to Texas. We'll see. I'd probably pick A&M in that game, I think, really at this point. But that was my thought with that. Tennessee, obviously, we know what they are. They're okay. They're just they're not somebody who's going to do anything in the playoffs. SMU. Now, this is where you and I had a different one. You had Boise there. I got SMU. They got the Louisville win. They got the Pitt win. They only lost by 3 to BYU. Ultimately, I don't think they're an excellent team, but I think what they've done so far deserves it just as much as anybody else at that position there. And I think they're probably going to play Miami in the ACC championship in Miami just with that Louisville win. Like, look at that, bro. That's horrific.
That's a bad resume, man.
That's their best win. You lose to Georgia Tech, your boys, and Louisville, the only win. And when I went through, we talked about Indiana's resume, and I remember I went through all the teams Indiana's played and went their cumulative record was a losing record. Miami's was even worse. All the teams they've played, we're talking minus maybe like 8 games. It's like 20 and 28 or something like that. It was terrible. So Miami really getting propped up with a crap schedule. Absolute crap schedule. A look at Colorado's just because we were talking about them.
Yeah.
Baylor and Texas Tech, their best wins. Lost to Nebraska and K-State. And here's your guys, Boise at 12. Wins against Wazoo and UNLV. Looking pretty good with just the loss to the number 1 team.
They lost the number 1 team close.
Very close. The number 1 team needed 2 special teams touchdowns to win that game. So, all right, my brother, that's an hour. Our time's up. I appreciate you so much for joining me on a Monday. Have a fantastic show. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
I'll talk to you, Juck.
Hey, it's Juck, and MyBookie is back with another offer for the Juck on Bucks audience. Open up a new MyBookie account, and they're going to match whatever you put in 100%. Put in $100, they're going to make it $200. Put in 3, they're going to make it $6, all the way up to $1,000. If you're new to sports gambling, we do picks every Friday. We are +7 on the year for the Juck on Bucks official picks, and we're going to keep it on rolling. So sign up for MyBookie. They're going to match your deposit. Use the promo code JUCK, and we're going to go through that every week, every Friday. Also, if you like online casinos, they're going to give you a $10 free chip for that as well. It's a great sports book. I've been using it for years. If you're new to game, we are not +7. We are now +14. +14 still after a losing week, and quite a losing week indeed. Nick, your hometown is Ontario. How about that? That's pretty awesome. Chad says he saw, what's up, Chad? Chad saw BP live and he moves like Terrell Pryor did. Wow. Terrell always looked like he was running slow to me. Man, he was fast as heck, but he looked like he was running slow. Ray Day says Turbo could be a Curtis Samuel type player. He is he's something special. Troy, yeah, usually a flip goes against us. It's really obnoxious. I would love for that culture to, Urban's culture was aggressive like that, trying to flip. He wanted his guys working to try to flip. It's not really been that way. And that's why we love Locke's tenacity and grit. And he brings that with him from Oregon. That's kind of the way they do things out there. I like it. Chad says, I tried to think of the last guy we had like Turbo and came up with Dontre Wilson. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent comparison athleticism-wise, speed-wise, but, the physicality of Turbo can run between the tackles. I mean, Turbo, this is a 190-pounder, and I want to say Dontre was probably like 175. And he looks for contact. When we see Trey go and seek out contact, the way he's been running, Turbo runs like that. He really does, which I really, really like. I really like the kid a lot. So interested to see your guys. Zahir Mathis. I think it's trending up. It looks better. I feel better about it than I did. Mika thinks Auburn is a dumpster. Nick D says, Juck and Kris, do you think we blow out Indiana? I think that we win the game by 14 points. All right, my friends, I appreciate y'all so much for joining me. Looks like we're having a little internet issue, and I don't want it to cut me off, so we're going to cut it here at about an hour. I appreciate y'all so much. I will see you tomorrow at 9:30. Have a great day. Thank you to Kris. Juck and Bucks out. Hey, it's Juck.
Juck? Who is Juck?
Juck on Bucks.
Juck on Bucks.
Juck on Bucks?
Juck. Juck on Bucks.
My guy Juck.
Juck on Bucks?
My buddy Juck.
Juck is the Juck.
It's Juck on Bucks.
Okay.
Juck is junk.
The Juckeyes.
Juckeyes.
Juck on Bucks.
Junk. Juck. Not junk. Juck.